Hello and welcome to my podcast, English Learning Through Discourse, where I answer this or that questions for English language learners. What's your opinion? Let me know in the comments. Today's topic is, would you rather cook or be cooked for? So when I think about the question, would I rather cook a meal or be cooked for? I think about the time and effort and planning that goes into making a great meal, the shopping, the cost and my ability to make good food. And I have worked professionally as a cook at a hot springs resort in the forest. So the cooks who lead the meal get to choose what meal they cook, and it was limited by it being vegetarian. We would always have a gluten-free option. So I would tend to focus on making Asian meals because they're really easy to make vegetarian and they're a little easier to make gluten-free because you can use rice noodles. I loved cooking for people. I would get so excited and also very nervous. It's a stressful job cooking a meal, for over 100 people in 5 hours, with sometimes only 3 people making the meal. And so it's very stressful. I wasn't just in it to get a meal in front of people. I wanted people to really enjoy the meal, to have a really great experience with their dinner or with their lunch. I really cared about that. And I live with my partner and I love cooking meals for us. Oftentimes I will come up with new ideas of things that I've always wanted to try to make. I learned how to make Japanese curry. I've also made orange chicken. And when I make Asian food, I like to call it Asian inspired food because I have a friend whose mom is Chinese from China, and I had a meal cooked by her, and it was the best Chinese food that I have ever experienced in my life, and it's so different than what you get in the restaurants, and yet it's just so amazing. So when I attempt to make Asian food, I always call it Asian inspired. Out of respect for, chefs and cooks and anyone making Asian food that have spent their whole lives learning how to do it and perfecting the art of it. I love making homemade noodles from scratch in so many different kinds of ways. It is so much fun and so rewarding to eat a homemade noodle that you've made yourself and to pull noodles. It's really cool. But on the other hand, there is the element of being able to just sit down and eat a meal that someone else has put time and effort into. And sometimes meals just taste better when they're cooked for you. Oftentimes, if I'm cooking a meal, if I'm having a dinner party and I have, a bigger group of people come over, the stress of getting, the amount of stress that I put on wanting that meal to be perfect and bringing all the elements together, making sure everything is hot and ready to go in the way that it is served when people come to eat, and just wanting everyone to have a great experience, I often have a hard time even eating after that because my body is just in stress mode. And I don't think it's like a bad stress, though it can, regress into that sometimes when things don't go according to plan. But oftentimes it's stress that I enjoy. I enjoy those types of challenges. I was an athlete and have been an athlete for most of my life. I love, physical activities and physical challenges and sports and competition. And when it comes to cooking, I put all of that energy into it. So when things don't go according to plan, it can be I take it very seriously. It can be very stressful. But I like the challenge and stress of cooking a larger meal for a bigger group of people. I think it's really fun. Unfortunately, I usually don't enjoy the meal until I eat the leftovers the next day. And then I'm like, oh, this was pretty good. Yeah. So, yeah, I gotta say, I love going out to eat. I love going out to get any kind of food that I cannot make better myself, or foods that I think I could make better myself, and I maybe get proven wrong because I just have such a phenomenal experience at a restaurant. And I am of the opinion that food tastes better when somebody cooks it for you. That's definitely not always true. I have gone out to eat, spend tons of money, and wondered why I spent so much money when I could have bought the ingredients myself and, made a better meal. But there are so many good restaurants out there that I've eaten at and restaurants that I have yet to eat at, and I'm never going to stop, you know, trying to find the answer to that question. Can you cook a meal better than I can? And there's still infinitely so much for me to learn. And sometimes it starts with just tasting something that I've never had before and learning from that experience. I love to cook. I love making meals. It is definitely a passion of mine. I suppose when it just comes down to enjoying the meal, I definitely do enjoy meals that people cook for me. Probably more because I just care too much, I get too stressed out and I don't have as much of an appetite. Unless I'm making my all-time favorite, macaroni and cheese. I've been making cheese sauce from scratch since I was like 8 years old, maybe younger. My grandma taught me how to make it. My mom used to make it all the time. I was so fascinated with making cheese sauce, and I love macaroni and cheese. I'm making macaroni and cheese out of the box forever, and then once I finally made the sauce enough times with my grandma, if I had some cheese and some milk and some flour laying around the house, and we usually always had pasta noodles. So as an adult, I try to always keep noodles stocked in my house and all those ingredients because you never know when you are going to need mac and cheese. And that's a meal that I can just cook effortlessly, stress-free. I've made it so many times. Maybe I could do it with my eyes closed, but I don't actually want to try that because I fear third-degree burns from boiling water. I have a respectful fear for that. But yeah, mac and cheese is one of the meals that I can just make and I can eat it. I can eat the whole pot that I make of mac and cheese. But other than that, please come to my house, cook meals for me. Let's go out to the restaurant. Let's go try things. Let's get out there. I prefer meals to be cooked for me when it comes to enjoying them and eating them. But when it comes to, sharing, my passion for cooking and my love of people and wanting to show people a good time and take care of them, I love that too. But anyway, what's your opinion? Do you like to cook meals for people, or do you want your meals to be cooked for you? Let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for listening.